The spell that changed everything. Ethan Carter never believed in magic. He was a scientist, a man of logic and reason. But love made people do foolish things. And Ethan had fallen in love with someone who could never be his. Lyrian, the mysterious alien woman with golden eyes. Lyrian was one of the Velari, a rare and powerful species that lived in the farthest corners of space. She was graceful, intelligent, and beautiful in a way that made Ethan's heart ache. But she barely noticed him. They lived on Nova 12, a human colony deep in the Orion sector. Ethan worked as an engineer, while Lyrian was an advisor to the Human Council. She spoke little, always keeping her distance. The Velari were private, almost mystical, and no human had ever been close to one. But Ethan wanted more. One evening, while wandering the colony's lower district, he came across an old trader selling strange artifacts. The man had a dusty book, covered in strange symbols. "Love spells," the trader whispered, grinning with broken teeth. "Ancient, powerful. Make anyone love you." Ethan laughed. "Magic isn't real." The trader shrugged. "Maybe. But Velari magic is real. Their kind is different." He leaned closer. "One spell, one chant. She will never leave you." Ethan hesitated. It was ridiculous. It was foolish. But something inside him whispered, "What if?" He bought the book. The ritual. That night, in his small apartment, Ethan opened the book. The pages were old, written in a language he didn't understand. But near the back, there was a section in broken English. "To bind two souls, speak these words under the light of two moons." Outside, Nova 12's twin moons were full. Perfect timing. Ethan felt a strange excitement as he lit a small candle and whispered the words. The air grew heavy, pressing against his skin. The candle flickered. Then, silence. Ethan laughed at himself. What was I expecting? Feeling foolish, he closed the book and went to bed. Something is wrong. The next morning, Ethan walked through the colony as usual. He expected nothing to change. But when he saw Lyrian in the marketplace, she was staring at him. Not just looking, staring. Ethan's heart pounded as she walked straight to him. Her golden eyes, usually distant and unreadable, were locked onto his. "You," she whispered. "What have you done?" Ethan froze. "Do you what?" Lyrian stepped closer. "I feel something. A pull. I can't leave." She touched her temple as if in pain. "What did you do?" Ethan's mouth went dry. "She knows." I don't know what you mean," he lied. Lyrian grabbed his wrist. Ethan gasped. A rush of energy shot through him, like electricity, but deeper. His mind spun, images flashing. Stars, voices, something ancient and powerful. Then she let go. "I am bound to you," she whispered. "Forever." Ethan felt his stomach drop. No, this wasn't supposed to be real. The alarms. Before Ethan could speak, the colony's emergency sirens blared. A red light flashed across the marketplace. People ran. Security officers shouted orders. Lyrian's eyes widened. She clutched her head. "No, they are coming." Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Who's coming?" She shuddered. "I don't know how, but they sensed me. Your spell, it made me visible." Ethan's mind raced. Visible? To who? Then he saw the shadows in the sky. Massive, dark shapes, blocking the sunlight. Ships, warships, descending toward Nova 12. Lyrian looked at him, fear in her golden eyes. Run. And for the first time in his life, Ethan understood what true fear felt like. Because whatever was coming, it wasn't friendly. The binding is real. Ethan could hear his heartbeat pounding in his ears. The colony's sirens screamed through the streets, warning of an incoming threat. People ran in all directions, their faces pale with fear. Above them, shadows blocked the twin moons, massive warships descending through the sky, their dark hulls reflecting the dim lights of Nova 12. But Ethan barely noticed them. Because Lyrian, the alien woman he had secretly admired, the woman he had foolishly tried to bind to him with a love spell, was trembling in fear. Her golden eyes flickered, her breath uneven. Her hands, which were usually steady and graceful, now clutched the sides of her head as if something was tearing her apart from the inside. Ethan reached for her, his own fear rising. "Lyrian, what's happening? Who are they?" She staggered but didn't answer. Instead, she looked at him like he had just destroyed her entire life. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This bond, it's not just a trick. It's real. You have tied our souls together. And now, they know where I am." Ethan's stomach twisted. "They?" A deep, guttural roar echoed through the sky. Then, without warning, a blue energy blast struck the colony's defense tower, tearing it apart in a massive explosion. The shockwave sent people flying, shattering windows, and throwing Ethan off balance. Lyrian grabbed his wrist and dragged him into an alley just as another blast vaporized the ground where they had stood. "Move," she hissed. "If they catch us, we are both dead." Ethan didn't argue. He ran, his lungs burning, his heart slamming against his ribs. He didn't understand what was happening. The spell was just supposed to make her love him, not destroy everything. But something deep inside him whispered the terrible truth. "This is your fault." The Xeth Dominion arrives. From the safety of the alley, Ethan dared to look up at the sky again. The massive ships had landed. Dark figures poured out of them. Tall, armored aliens with glowing blue eyes. Their movements were unnatural, smooth but inhuman. They carried weapons that hummed with energy, scanning the streets for something. Or someone. "Lyrian," Ethan panted. "Who are they?" She didn't answer right away. She was watching the invaders with horror, her fingers gripping the wall so tightly that her nails left marks. Finally, she whispered, "The Xeth Dominion." Ethan frowned. "I've never heard of them." "You wouldn't have," she said. "Humans are still young in the stars. But the Xeth, they have ruled for thousands of years, and they hunt my kind." Ethan stared at her. "Why?" Lyrian closed her eyes for a moment, as if she was trying to gather herself. When she looked at him again, there was a deep sorrow in her gaze. "My people, the Velari, are not like others," she said. "We do not use machines the way humans do. Our power comes from something deeper, something ancient, a connection to the universe itself." Ethan nodded slowly, still not understanding. "Magic." Lyrian flinched at the word but didn't deny it. "The Xeth fear what they cannot control," she continued. "They cannot steal our power, so instead, they destroy us. They wipe us from history. Only a few of us remain, hiding on distant worlds." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. And now, because of him, because of his selfish little spell, the Xeth had found her. "They sensed me through the bond," Lyrian murmured, as if reading his thoughts. "The spell connected us too strongly. It made me visible." Ethan felt sick. I didn't mean to." She shook her head. "It doesn't matter what you meant. It's too late. If they capture me, they will destroy me. And because we are bound, they will kill you too." Ethan's blood ran cold. Nowhere to run. The Xeth soldiers spread out, scanning the streets with glowing devices. Their weapons pulsed with blue light, humming with deadly energy. "We have to go," Lyrian whispered. "Now." "Where?" Ethan hissed. "They've taken over the colony. We're trapped." Lyrian's golden eyes darted around, her mind racing. "There's a way off-world," she said, "but we need to reach the docking station, if it's still intact." Ethan clenched his fists. There was no time to think, no time to panic. He had already doomed them both. The least he could do was try to fix it. "All right," he said. "Let's move." Keeping low, they slipped through the alleys. The colony was in chaos. Fires burned. Security forces engaged the Xeth in desperate combat, but it was clear that the humans were losing. The Xeth were too powerful, too organized. This was not just an invasion, it was an execution. They reached the edge of the colony, where the small docking station stood. Several ships were still there, but the Xeth were moving toward them fast. Lyrian cursed under her breath. They'll destroy every ship before we can get to one. Ethan's mind raced. They needed a distraction. Something big, something crazy. Then he saw it, a fuel transport parked near the entrance, its cargo full of highly explosive material. A risky idea formed in his mind. What if we blow that up? Lyrian glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she smirked. You may not understand magic, human, but you understand chaos. Ethan grabbed a discarded pulse rifle from a fallen guard. He had never fought in a war, never held a gun like this before. But right now, he was willing to try anything. Cover me, he said. Before he could think about how insane this plan was, he ran. The enemy hunts their own. The colony of Nova 12 was burning. Thick smoke filled the air, and the distant echoes of human screams mixed with the deep, mechanical hum of the Xeth warships hovering above. The invaders had moved fast, overwhelming the colony's defenses like they were nothing. Ethan and Lyrian crouched behind a pile of rubble, watching as black-armored Xeth soldiers marched through the streets. Their glowing blue visors scanned everything, looking for survivors, or more specifically, looking for her. They know I'm here, Lyrian whispered, her golden eyes flickering with fear. They won't stop until they have me. Ethan clutched the stolen pulse rifle in his shaking hands. He wasn't a soldier. He had never fired a weapon before. And yet, here he was, caught in a war that wasn't supposed to be his. He had only wanted Lyrian to notice him, to care. Now, because of that stupid spell, they were both running for their lives. Ethan swallowed his guilt. Focus. You can't undo what's done. Just survive. Lyrian nudged him. The Xeth are searching fast. We don't have much time. Ethan's gaze flicked toward the fuel transport he had spotted earlier. If they could blow it up, it might buy them enough time to reach the docking station and escape. You better have some magic left in you, Ethan muttered, because this is about to get messy. Lyrian smirked despite the chaos around them. Valari don't use magic the way you think, but I'll do my part. Ethan didn't know what that meant, but there was no time to ask. The explosion. Ethan took a deep breath and sprinted toward the fuel transport. Immediately, the Xeth spotted him. A sharp, alien voice barked orders, and within seconds, blue plasma bolts whizzed through the air, scorching the ground around him. Ethan threw himself behind the transport, panting. His fingers trembled as he raised the pulse rifle and aimed at the fuel tank. Lyrian, he yelled. She was already moving. Her hands lifted, and the air around her shimmered. A strange pulse rippled outward, and for a moment, Ethan's mind felt lighter, like something was flowing through him. The Xeth soldiers hesitated, their glowing visors flickering, as if something invisible had disoriented them. Ethan didn't waste the opportunity. He squeezed the trigger. Boom. The explosion ripped through the street, a massive fireball engulfing the Xeth in its path. The force of it threw Ethan backward, his body slamming into the pavement. The world spun around him. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard Lyrian's voice. Get up. Ethan groaned, his head throbbing, but he pushed himself up. The Xeth were in disarray, some burning, others struggling to regroup. It wasn't much, but it was enough. This way. Lyrian pulled him toward the docking station. The hunt continues. They ran. The docking station loomed ahead, its landing pads lined with ships. Most of them had already been destroyed by the Xeth, but one remained, a small, sleek scout vessel. Ethan's heart pounded. If they could get to it, they had a chance. Then, a dark shadow dropped from above. Ethan barely had time to react before a Xeth warrior landed in front of them. Unlike the others, this one was different. His armor was heavier, darker, more intricate. His glowing blue eyes locked onto Lyrian. "You cannot run, Vaylari," the Xeth warrior said in a deep, guttural voice. "The hunt is over." Lyrian tensed. Ethan lifted his rifle, but before he could fire, the Xeth moved. Faster than anything Ethan had ever seen. The warrior knocked the rifle out of his hands and grabbed him by the throat. Ethan gasped, his vision blurring as the Xeth lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. "Foolish human," the Xeth growled. "You interfere in matters beyond your understanding." Ethan struggled, kicking, clawing at the Xeth's grip, but it was like trying to fight a machine. His lungs burned, his vision darkened. Then, Lyrian screamed. A golden light flashed in Ethan's mind. Suddenly, he could feel her, inside his head. Her fear, her anger, her power. The Xeth warrior stiffened, his grip loosening as his body jerked violently. His blue visor cracked, and for the first time, Ethan saw something behind it, a look of shock. Ethan hit the ground hard, coughing. The Xeth staggered backward, his body trembling. "Impossible." Lyrian stepped forward, her eyes glowing like molten gold. "Touch him again," she whispered, "and you will know why the Vaylari were feared." The Xeth collapsed, his armor sparking. Ethan stared at Lyrian in shock. What did you just do?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You're starting to understand, aren't you?" she whispered. "This bond between us, it's not just a curse, it's something much deeper." Ethan shivered. He didn't know what she meant. Not yet. But deep inside him, he could feel it too. Something had awakened. Something not human. Escape and revelation. The Xeth were regrouping. More of them were coming. Lyrian didn't hesitate. She grabbed Ethan's hand and pulled him toward the scout ship. The doors hissed open, and they stumbled inside. Ethan barely had time to strap into the co-pilot's seat before Lyrian slammed her hand on the console. The ship's systems lit up instantly. Ethan blinked. "How did you?" Lyrian's fingers trembled as she touched the controls. "The Vaylari don't need machines like you do," she said softly. "We speak to them." The ship roared to life. Outside, the Xeth opened fire, but it was too late. The engines flared, and the ship launched into the sky. Ethan felt his stomach drop as Nova 12 shrank beneath them. They had escaped. For now. But as he turned to Lyrian, he saw the haunted look in her eyes. "You don't understand yet, Ethan," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "The bond between us. It's something ancient, something dangerous." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then help me understand." She met his gaze. "I will," she said. "But first, we need to survive." Running from destiny. The stars blurred as the ship surged through space, leaving Nova 12 and the burning colony behind. The Xeth warships shrank in the distance, but Ethan knew it wasn't over. He slumped back in his seat, his breathing heavy. His pulse still pounded in his ears, but the danger hadn't fully registered yet. They were alive. Barely. Across from him, Lyrian sat in silence, her hands still gripping the ship's controls. Golden light flickered around her fingertips. The same energy he had seen before. The same energy that had dropped a Xeth warrior to his knees. Ethan swallowed. What the hell was that? Lyrian finally looked at him. Her golden eyes no longer looked distant. There was something else in them now. Something troubled. "The bond," she murmured. "It's changing you." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" Lyrian hesitated, then reached out her hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a sudden electric charge, Ethan felt her presence inside his head. It wasn't just a voice. It wasn't just thoughts. It was her. The same fear she felt. The same exhaustion. The weight of something ancient pressing against her soul. Ethan gasped and jerked away. "Stop! Get out of my head." Lyrian pulled her hand back. The connection faded, but its aftershock still lingered in his mind. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This spell you used, it wasn't just some trick. You didn't just make me love you, Ethan. You tied our existence together. I feel what you feel. You feel what I feel. If I die, you die too." Ethan stared at her, his mouth dry. The reality of what he had done was sinking in, piece by piece. This wasn't just about attraction. It wasn't about love. It was survival. The hunt never ends. Ethan forced himself to focus on the situation. They had escaped, but where were they going? He leaned toward the control panel. "Do we have a destination? A plan?" Lyrian exhaled sharply. "There's an old Valari outpost hidden deep in the asteroid belt of Garros 6. If we make it there, we might find shelter." Ethan frowned. "Might." Lyrian's jaw tightened. "I don't know what's left of it. The Teth have been hunting my people for centuries. For all I know, it could be a graveyard." Ethan rubbed his face. "Great. So we're running toward a place that might not even exist, while an entire fleet is chasing us." Lyrian shot him a sharp look. "Do you have a better idea?" He didn't, and that terrified him. Because now his survival was completely tied to hers. The change inside him. The ship drifted through space, quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Ethan stared at his hands. They felt different. Ever since the Seth attack, ever since Lyrian had used her power, something inside him felt off. He closed his eyes, trying to steady his thoughts. And then, a flash of memory that wasn't his own. A towering golden city under twin suns, a race of elegant beings standing before a great rift in space, their hands raised in unison, energy crackling around them. And then, fire, screams, the sky shattering like glass. Ethan snapped his eyes open, gasping. His heartbeat was erratic, his body burning with an energy that wasn't his own. Lyrian was watching him. "You saw it, didn't you?" she said quietly. Ethan clenched his fists. Was that your memory?" Lyrian nodded. "The fall of my people, the day we lost everything." Ethan felt his skin crawl. "Why am I seeing your past?" "Because of the bond," Lyrian said. "It's growing stronger. It's not just connecting our emotions anymore. It's fusing our minds, our experiences." Ethan leaned back, trying to breathe through the panic. This wasn't normal. This wasn't supposed to happen. He had wanted love. Instead, he had become something else entirely. The XF find them. A loud beeping suddenly filled the cockpit. Lyrian's hands flew over the controls. Her expression turned ice cold. "They found us." Ethan leaned forward. The ship's sensors showed 3 Seth warships closing in. "How?" Ethan yelled. Lyrian cursed under her breath. "They're tracking the bond. They can feel it, just like I can." Ethan's heart pounded. Then how the hell do we stop them? Lyrian's eyes flickered with golden light. "We don't stop them. We lose them." She grabbed the controls, and suddenly the ship jerked violently to the side, entering a deep spiral toward a massive asteroid field. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." "Hold on," Lyrian said. The ship dove into the chaotic maze of spinning asteroids. The Seth warships followed, their plasma weapons firing in bursts, trying to hit them between the gaps. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Tell me you have a way out of this." Lyrian's eyes glowed brighter. "Trust me." Ethan was about to argue, but then he felt something in his mind shift. A whisper, a pull. He suddenly knew which direction to go, where to tilt the ship, where to move before the enemy even fired. As if he and Lyrian were one mind, flying together. His hands flew over the secondary controls. Without thinking, without hesitation, the ship danced between the asteroids, dodging Seth fire, twisting at just the right moment. The Sith warships weren't so lucky. One of them clipped an asteroid, spinning out of control before slamming into another rock. It exploded in a flash of blue fire. Ethan's pulse raced. Holy, how did I do that? Lyrian's expression was unreadable. I told you. You're changing. The second Xeth ship fired a torpedo. Lyrian's hands blurred across the controls. She pulled the ship into a dive. The torpedo missed, but instead of hitting them, it slammed into a massive asteroid. The asteroid shattered, sending a wave of rock and debris straight at the pursuing Sith ships. The remaining 2 warships were buried in an avalanche of stone. Their engines sputtered, their weapons flickering. Then, silence. Ethan let out a shaky breath. We actually made it. Lyrian exhaled, closing her eyes for a moment. For now. The ship drifted into open space, away from the asteroid field. Ahead of them, barely visible in the darkness, was the abandoned Valeri outpost. Lyrian stared at it, her expression tense. Ethan followed her gaze. We're not done yet, are we? He asked. Lyrian's voice was barely above a whisper. No, she said. This is just the beginning, becoming something more. The ship drifted through the vast darkness of space, heading toward the abandoned Valeri outpost, a forgotten place hidden deep within the Garros 6 asteroid belt. The station was a ghostly relic, its once glistening golden towers now covered in dust and debris. Ethan stared at it, unease creeping up his spine. It didn't look welcoming. It looked like a tomb. Lyrian, sitting at the controls, hadn't said a word since they had escaped the Xeth. She had been stiff, quiet, lost in thought. Ethan didn't need to ask what she was thinking. He could feel it. Through the bond. It was growing stronger. The more time passed, the more he felt her emotions leaking into his mind. The exhaustion, the fear, and something else, something ancient. He could almost hear whispers at the edge of his thoughts, like forgotten voices calling out from across time. It was terrifying. And yet, a small part of him didn't want to fight it. A small part of him wanted to understand. The forgotten ruins. The ship landed softly inside a long-abandoned docking bay. As soon as the engines powered down, silence filled the air. Ethan unstrapped himself. All right, now what? Lyrian was already standing, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Follow me, and stay close. Ethan stepped out onto the platform and shivered. The place felt wrong. Not just empty, not just abandoned, haunted. The walls were covered in ancient symbols, pulsing softly with energy that shouldn't have existed after all these years. The air itself felt thick, like space itself was pressing down on them. Ethan touched one of the walls. It was warm. Why does it feel alive? He muttered. Lyrian didn't look at him. Because it is. Ethan turned to her sharply. What? She finally met his gaze. My people did not just live on this station, she said quietly. We left pieces of ourselves behind. Ethan frowned. What does that even mean? Lyrian hesitated. Then she lifted her hand. And for the first time, Ethan watched as golden energy flowed from her fingertips and seeped into the walls. The symbols on the walls flared to life. The entire station hummed. Ethan felt the air around them shift. Then, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. A Valeri has returned. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Lyrian did not look surprised. She lowered her hand and steeled herself. Show yourself, she commanded. The air in front of them rippled, and then a figure emerged. A towering being, translucent and flickering, formed from pure golden energy. Ethan instinctively stepped back, reaching for his weapon, but Lyrian stopped him. It's a memory, she whispered, a fragment of the past. The glowing figure tilted its head toward Lyrian. You are of our blood, it said. And yet your bond is unnatural. Its gaze shifted to Ethan. Ethan felt it. Something pierced into his mind, searching him, pulling apart his thoughts. He gritted his teeth. "Hey, get out of my head." The energy being pulsed. "You are not Vaylari," it said. "And yet you carry our essence. This is dangerous." Ethan clenched his fists. "Yeah. Well, tell me something I don't know." The figure did not react to his sarcasm. Instead, it turned back to Lyrian. "You have broken the natural laws of our kind," it said. "You have tied your existence to something beyond us." Lyrian's expression darkened. "I didn't do it on purpose." The figure paused. Then, slowly, it reached out toward Ethan. "Step forward." Ethan hesitated. "And if I don't?" The figure's glowing eyes flared. "You will not survive what is coming." Ethan looked at Lyrian. She gave him a small nod. "Trust it." He swallowed hard, then stepped forward. The instant he did, everything around him disappeared. A vision of power. Ethan was no longer in the ruins. He was somewhere else, somewhere beyond time. The space around him was endless, filled with shifting golden light. He could feel something massive, something ancient, watching him. Then, pain. A deep, searing pain spread through his entire body, as if something inside him was breaking apart and rebuilding itself at the same time. He fell to his knees, gasping. He could hear voices, thousands of them, whispering in his mind. Memories that weren't his. The Vaylari's past. Their rise. Their fall. Their power. And at the heart of it all, Ethan saw something impossible. A Vaylari standing before a great, swirling rift in space. A portal. And from it, something was coming through. Something dark. Something that devoured light. And the Vaylari, they had fled from it. Ethan gasped, clutching his chest as the vision snapped away. He was back in the ruins. Lyrian was kneeling beside him, her hands gripping his shoulders. "Ethan." He looked up at her, his mind spinning. "What was that?" He choked out. The energy figure stood over them. "It is what we have been running from," it said. "And now, because of your bond, it knows where to find you." Ethan's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Lyrian demanded. The energy figure turned toward her. "That Keth were never your greatest enemy," it said. "They are only the first wave." Lyrian's eyes widened. Then, what's coming? The figure's golden light flickered. Something that will end everything. Ethan forced himself to his feet. His body felt different. Stronger. Faster. His senses sharper. The bond was changing him. Lyrian turned to him, her expression unreadable. "We don't have much time," she whispered. Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we'd better get ready." The war for freedom. The Vaylari ruins trembled. Golden energy pulsed through the ancient walls, flickering like a heartbeat. The ghostly figure of the Vaylari guardian stood before Ethan and Lyrian, its glowing eyes unreadable. But the words it had just spoken still echoed in Ethan's mind. Something that will end everything. Ethan swallowed hard, his hands clenched into fists. The visions were still fresh. The swirling rift, the darkness spilling from it. The destruction of the Vaylari. And now, because of him, because of the bond, it knew where to find them. A warning from the past. Lyrian was the first to speak. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "Tell me everything." The energy figure tilted its head as if studying her. "The Vaylari once stood at the peak of the galaxy," it said. "Our power was unmatched. We shaped the stars themselves. But then, we saw what was waiting beyond the edge of reality." Ethan shivered. The rift. The figure nodded. A doorway. A fracture in space, leading to something not of this universe. Something older than time itself. We called it the Devourer. Lyrian's breath caught. "It destroyed us, didn't it?" The figure's golden light dimmed. "No, we ran." Ethan's eyes widened. "You ran." The figure's expression didn't change. "We had no choice. We could not stop it. We could only flee and hide. That exit, blinded by their hunger for power, do not understand what they serve. They are pawns. The true enemy is still waiting. Ethan's pulse pounded. Waiting for what? The figure turned its glowing gaze on him. For you. The ruins shook violently. A deep, guttural hum filled the air, like the sound of a great machine waking up. Lyrian turned sharply. Something is coming. Ethan could feel it too. A pull, a weight pressing down on his chest. And then, through the thick energy mist outside the ruins, he saw them. Seth warships, dozens of them, blotting out the stars. The battle begins. Lyrian pulled Ethan back, her golden eyes burning with fury. "They're here faster than I thought," she muttered. "We need to move." Ethan barely had time to react before the first plasma bombardment slammed into the ruins. The ground shook, sending dust and debris raining down around them. The golden Velari Guardian flickered, its voice distant. "The time for running is over." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Then we fight." Lyrian grabbed his wrist, the bond flaring between them. "Are you sure?" Ethan felt it again, the strange, new power pulsing through his body. Ever since the bond had strengthened, he had changed. He could move faster, react quicker. He could feel Lyrian's thoughts before she even spoke. Maybe, just maybe, he could do more. Ethan looked up at the sky, watching as dark shapes descended toward them. The Seth weren't holding back. "Yeah," he said, "I'm sure." Awakening the power, the ruins erupted into chaos. Seth soldiers dropped from the sky, their blue visors glowing in the darkness. Plasma rifles hummed as they took aim. Ethan moved without thinking. Before the first shot was fired, he was already dodging, twisting, reacting. He didn't understand how. His body simply knew where to go. His muscles responded before his mind could process it. Lyrian was right beside him, moving like a blur. The two of them wove through the battle like ghosts, their bond guiding them. Ethan grabbed a fallen plasma rifle and spun, firing without hesitation. Blue energy blasts tore through the air, striking Seth's soldiers before they could react. Lyrian lifted her hands. Golden light surged. The ruins responded to her call. Walls shifted. Stone rose from the ground. A wave of energy smashed into the Seth, sending them flying. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt invincible. He and Lyrian weren't just fighting together. They were fighting as one. The turning point. The Seth ships hovered above, their weapons charging for another strike. Ethan and Lyrian had to act fast. "Can we take them down?" Ethan yelled. Lyrian's eyes flickered. Not alone. The Velari Guardian stepped forward, its golden form pulsating. "We are not alone." Then, suddenly, the ruins themselves awakened. The once dead city came to life. Massive Velari war golems, hidden beneath the sands, rose from the ground. Ancient defense turrets powered up, golden energy crackling in their cores. The Seth had expected to attack a ruin. Instead, they had awakened an army. Ethan's breath caught. Holy. Lyrian raised her hand, and the Velari defenses obeyed her command. The golems charged forward, their heavy footsteps shaking the earth. Energy cannons lit up the sky, firing golden beams that tore through the Seth fleet. Ethan and Lyrian stood together at the heart of the battle, moving like a single force, striking down their enemies. And as Ethan fought, he felt something shift inside him. The power of the Velari, flowing through his veins, changing him, making him more than human. The final strike. The battle raged for hours. The Seth fought hard, but against the awakened ruins, they stood no chance. One by one, their warships fell from the sky. The last Seth commander stood before Ethan and Lyrian. His armor cracked, his breathing ragged. "You are not supposed to exist," the Seth rasped. "You are an abomination." Ethan stepped forward, gripping his plasma rifle. "Yeah," he muttered. "Well, guess what?" He raised his hand, and for the first time, Golden energy surged from his palm. The Sith commander's eyes widened. Ethan unleashed the blast. The commander was thrown back, his body disintegrating into light. It was over. The Sith were defeated. But deep inside, Ethan knew it wasn't finished. Because the real enemy was still waiting. Beyond the rift. Watching. Waiting. And now, it knew his name. Eternity together. The battlefield was silent. The once great ruins of the Valeri city stood battered but alive, its ancient defenses humming softly in the aftermath of the battle. Smoke curled into the air from the wreckage of Sith warships, their once feared fleet now reduced to nothing but burning metal and shattered wreckage. Ethan stood in the center of it all, breathing heavily. His hands trembled, not from exhaustion, but from power. Golden light still flickered at his fingertips, fading slowly, but he could feel it deep inside him now. It wasn't just a side effect of the bond anymore. It was part of him. And that terrified him. Beside him, Lyrian was silent, staring out at the ruins. Her golden eyes flickered with unreadable emotion. "We won," Ethan said, breaking the silence. Lyrian shook her head. "No," she whispered. "This was only the beginning." Ethan frowned. "What are you talking about?" Lyrian turned to face him, her expression haunted. "The Teth were never the true enemy, Ethan. You saw it. In the vision. In the bond." Ethan stiffened. The rift. The devourer. Something far worse than the Teth was still out there. Waiting. And it had seen him. The rift awakens. The ground beneath them trembled. Ethan's eyes snapped toward the sky, and his heart stopped. A black tear had opened in the void above them. Not a ship. Not a planet. Something else. It looked wrong, as if space itself had been ripped apart, revealing something beyond reality. Golden energy flared around Ethan and Lyrian as the bond surged in mourning. And then, from the rift, something moved. Dark tendrils unfurled from the blackness, writhing like living shadows. They pulsed with an unnatural emptiness, devouring light, devouring sound. And then, a voice echoed through their minds. Not words, not language, just a deep, soul-crushing hunger. "You cannot it." Ethan staggered back, clutching his head as a wave of pressure crashed through his mind. It was pulling at him, trying to consume him. Lyrian grabbed his wrist, her own breath ragged. "Ethan, stay with me." But Ethan could feel it now. The thing inside the rift wasn't just looking for him. It wanted him. Because of the bond. Because of the power now flowing through his veins. Because he was the first human to ever touch Valeri energy. And that made him a threat. Or worse, a target. A choice beyond time. Lyrian pulled Ethan back toward the ruins. The golden guardian from before appeared once again, its form flickering, its voice trained. "It is here," it said. "You must act now, before it fully awakens." Ethan gritted his teeth. How do we stop it? The guardian hesitated. Then, its glowing gaze landed on Ethan. "You are the key." Ethan's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" The guardian stepped forward, and suddenly, Ethan felt himself being pulled into another vision. A swirling vortex, a collapsing star. The Valeri's final stand against the devourer. The vision shifted. He saw himself standing at the edge of the rift, golden energy crackling around his body. Lyrian stood beside him, her face filled with sorrow. And then in the vision, Ethan stepped forward, into the rift itself. Ethan gasped, staggering back as he broke free from the vision. His chest ached with the weight of realization. He knew what the guardian meant now. There was no stopping the devourer. It couldn't be fought, only contained. And to do that, someone had to go inside. Someone had to become the lock. And the only one strong enough to survive the journey was him, bound forever. Lyrian grabbed his arm. She had seen it too. "No," she said fiercely. "You don't have to do this." Ethan looked at her. If I don't, everything we fought for, everything we saved, it'll all be for nothing. Lyrian's grip tightened. There has to be another way. The rift shook violently, the tendrils of darkness stretching further, reaching toward the ruins, toward them. There wasn't time. Ethan stepped closer to her, lifting a hand to her face. Lyrian, he whispered, the bond tied us together, but I won't let it be a curse. Lyrian's golden eyes shimmered with unshed tears. You'll die, she whispered. Ethan gave a small, sad smile. Or maybe I'll become something else. He turned toward the rift and stepped forward. The final transformation. As Ethan walked toward the swirling void, golden energy surged around him. The bond pulsed. It wasn't resisting. It wasn't trying to stop him. It was helping him. And then, just before he reached the edge, Lyrian grabbed his hand. Ethan's eyes widened. Lyrian, I told you, she whispered. We are bound. I will not let you face this alone. The bond flared to life, surrounding them both in a blinding golden light. And then, they stepped into the rift together. Eternity together. Silence. Darkness. Then, a pulse. Not of destruction. Not of hunger. But of creation. The rift did not close. It changed. Where there was once endless darkness, now there was balance. The devourer was no longer devouring. It was contained. And at the heart of it, within the swirling light and shadow, two figures stood. Ethan was no longer human. Lyrian was no longer Valari. They had become something more. Two souls, bound across time, across space, a bridge between what was and what would be. And though no one in the universe would ever know their names, they would watch over it forever, together.